the cloud. All right, here we go. I am so excited to be here today. I'm Nico Fisher. I own a company called Skywriting by Nico, and I am so lucky to be involved in the Maui County Virtual Job Fair website and other things, but that's the one we're going to be talking about today, actually, that we're alluding to today with this conversation. So what we have done, we have a big event coming up in August 4th. It's called Careers in College Job Fair. And what we decided to do, what I do is I work on the Maui County Virtual Job Fair website. So me and my partner, Anthony, do all the work on it. And so we're having a job fair coming up. It's live, virtual, and then we're going to have a live event also in person. And that is all happening August 4th. So we thought we would do a run up to the job fair, have a few different classes that are coming, that came up before. So every Wednesday before the 4th of August, we have had use your personality traits to find your dream job, doing the RISAC test. We had Linda last week, which was awesome, was Make Your Next Move. And it's a program that you can use to search for jobs in different ways that you never have before. And you get to gather a bunch of information also, which is really helpful. So we went through that. Both of those are, I'm going to have to send you the link to that. I had it written down and somewhere I have lost it. So I'm going to have to send that to you. But the event that we're talking about today is remote work opportunities and remote learning opportunities with none other than Ka'ala Souza from Workforce Development Council. Now, I've seen Mr. Ka'ala speak before, and I was really excited to hear him speak because he just spoke on my level, and I felt like I was talking to someone that I've known forever. And the topic that he's going to be talking about today is workforce opportunities and remote learning. So he's going to share a lot of good stuff with us. So back to the Careers in College Job Fair. It's happening on August 4th. The virtual part of it is 1 to 3 at Maui County Virtual Job Fair.com. There'll be 30 employers there. There's an in-person job fair at UH in the Paina building from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. There's 25 employer booths there. And then we'll have events happening most of the day. But today I get to introduce Ka'ala Souza, again, one of my favorite speakers, and he's going to be sharing remote work opportunities, instant teams, FlexJobs, Next Rep, and how to prepare for them with remote learning opportunities from LinkedIn, Northstar, and Coursera. Now, what this all means to you is online opportunities, and that is so cool. So who is Ka'ala? He's a part of the team at the state's Workforce Development Council, focusing on upskilling Hawaii's workforce to be ready for anything the future brings. And boy, what we have ahead of us is going to be both challenging and exciting. He's also a public speaker, a corporate trainer, and an author of the book Pono, a Hawaiian-style approach to balance and well-being. We couldn't be more honored to have him here today to tell us all about all of these opportunities. So Ka'ala, please, you go for it. The stage is yours.
Thank you. I love the introduction. I should have you go with me everywhere. First, I'm super excited too. And I have some slides that I want to share with you all. It's kind of like the standard Zoom thing. I'm in a very challenging situation. You know, we're talking about remote work and remote learning. I'm as remote as I can go right now. I'm on Molokai, looking over towards most of you on Maui, I think. I'm on the east side, and I'm up Mauka running a single solar panel that doesn't charge everything. So we have a generator going at the same time. My wife is a nurse practitioner, and she is seeing all of her patients on Zoom as well. So it's a very interesting situation. And I just want to say I'm super excited. And before I get cut off, if I have any kind of Zoom catastrophes, I want to just share my screen and get right into what we're talking about, because it's the kind of thing that gets me excited. And if I could, let me just see, am I here? Yes, here it is. That should be, it's the kind of stuff that gets me kind of pumped up, and this is what I vibe on. So if I do get cut off from you, I just want you all to know here, whoever's here watching this replay, I just want to say you have opportunities. That's it. And don't think that you don't. So if we do get cut off because of my poor internet connection, because it is windy up here, then at least you got the main thrust of this presentation, which is you have opportunities. You have options. You have alternatives. We were talking about your job fair coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's impressive. I love what you all are doing on Maui. 25 employers, 30 employers, 55 altogether. And it's something that, for the most part, we've been working like that for years, for my whole life. You have a job, or you go to school, you get a job, and then you work in that job, and then you're good. My grandfather had one job for his whole career. My parents had pretty much one job for their whole career. I'm in that generation where they started getting multiple jobs throughout their career. My kids may not even have jobs. It would be like we're in this gig worker thing. So everything is a little bit different. So, I applaud what you all are doing on your job fair, and I'm thrilled to hear about the 50 plus employers you're going to see. But even something like FlexJobs, they're talking about 55,000 job opportunities that they vetted with thousands and thousands of employers. And the interesting thing is, borrowing from a title from a book. I think it's Gladwell who says that the world is flat. The world just got flat all of a sudden. So it's very, very equal. We're talking about, trying to be equal. So there's some people who have, and there's people who have not, and there's some people who can, and there's people who cannot. We want to address both of those today. So we're talking about opportunities in remote work, on opportunities in remote learning, and they go hand in hand. I work for the Workforce Development Council. It's a state department attached to the Department of Labor, Labor Industrial Relations. So state office, and we've been working on this thing called the Workforce Resiliency Initiative. So trying to get a resilient workforce through upskilling in digital literacy and problem solving and other soft skills. But the key thing for us here is that this is in terms of our human history, this is not just because we're in the pandemic, even before the pandemic and COVID-19, but we're in one of those pivotal times, those edgy times, and those edges where the life happens. On the edge of a reef, architects, they talk about edges and design, and so we're on that edge right now. And so I'm going to talk about this opportunity. And before I do, let me just share this statement from this guy named Van Dam, who's he was back in the day the chief learning officer at McKinsey, which is a huge global consulting firm. And he says that this is the best time for people who have the right skills and the right education, because there are tremendous opportunities. And this is what I want to start with, right? This is the best time. But then he goes right in the very next sentence and he says this: it's also the worst time in history for people with ordinary skills and education. So, this is one of those kind of conflicting statements, but they make sense for us, especially right now. And I think over 2020 into 2021, where we are, we can see this. But the key thing about this is that he's talking from 2017. So this was pre-pandemic, right? This is not, things were already happening in our world that the COVID-19 has tremendously accelerated. It's like just poured gasoline or something flammable onto what was already happening in the workforce, in the world and marketplace that some of us were just not aware of, including me. And so, we start talking about big global changes. We're talking about this statement from the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Again, this is pre-pandemic, where they say the world is facing a reskilling emergency. And what they're talking about there is that the skills that we have coming into 2020, into this decade, are not the skills that are going to be required for this decade. They're the skills for 2000, for 1990, for 1980. And so we're going to need to reskill, and other people call this a crisis. And so I'm not sure if I like this picture. I started out, the second slide was this picture here, where somebody crossed out crisis and they put opportunity. And I want to, we start talking about options. That's the first thing I wanted to make sure that right, that we have options. And before we do that, if you could, I'm a big fan of the chat. We have a small group over here. And so if you could just do me a favor, I want you to and if you don't mind, write down, where you're from in the chat, and how old you are. Just put down your age for me. Again, if you don't mind your age, if you don't want to put your exact age, give me a range, plus or minus 10 or 15 years. But put in your name there, and then and your age for me, so I can just see what's the scoops here. Check this out. So nice, Kihei. 58. You're in the prime of your life. And I'm from Kihei. Yep, 58. Maui, 27. That's Chase. I think let me see, my youngest son must be 26 right now. Linda, you're in the prime of your life, 66. Uh, and Edith, 38. Okay, good. Lahaina, good to have you. 53. I'm 55, or just about to be 55, I think. If I know, 54. I think I'm gonna be 54 this year. 54 this year. I don't keep track of that. And when we start talking about these opportunities, they're not related to age. They're not related to your demographics that are the things that normally people track for your job opportunities. They're just related to skills. People are saying now that skills are the new currency. So if you have the skills, it's not necessarily the diploma or what school you went to, but if you have the skills, I'm talking, people who didn't graduate from college, talking to you, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, I think, it's all about skills. And so it's not an age-related thing here that I'm talking about, and opportunities are across the board if you have certain things. And so thanks for sharing that kind of stuff for me. When we talk about generations, as a matter of fact, like my youngest son is 26, and just about to graduate from college. He's the only one of our 3 children, and he's the youngest who's going to graduate from college. And the other 2, I don't think should have gone to college. My middle son is more entrepreneurial. Both of them are more entrepreneurially bent. They both have their own business. Actually, all 3 of them do. But my middle son is our straight up online entrepreneur. His Amazon business. He sold his first business like 4 or 5 years ago, and I didn't even know you can sell Amazon business. I didn't even know what that meant. But I said, why am I paying the mortgage? Why don't you pay the mortgage? And as a matter of fact, he kind of pays a whole bunch of it now. So I'm like, great, you do your thing, in your generation. But then, like my wife is a nurse practitioner. She got a master's degree. She sees all of her patients via Zoom and telehealth. So, she's up here seeing patients. We're in Molokai. We go back and forth between Molokai and Oahu. My daughter in Texas, she has an online business, and she at one point was one of the top 100 sellers in the country a couple years back. And it's just nuts. It's just amazing. And there's different ways to make money. And what I'm talking about today is really cash flow. I'm not talking about jobs, although we're going to talk about jobs and remote work, but how to generate this cash flow, talking about in remotely. So, but first, let me just kind of build a case for this. Number one, I'm going to talk about where we are at and why this is this opportunity time, this sort of juncture of all of this context that are happening in our world. And then I want to talk specifically about remote work resources that we have, and then remote learning resources. So this is like Christmas time for me, and I'm like Santa Claus. I just want to give tons of things to you. I just want to give like free things, and so we got free computers as well. Though a lot of you are already on Zoom, you're already pretty digitally literate, and the fact that you're on something like talking about remote work suggests to me that you know some stuff already, right? And so that's what I want to talk about. But this is this crisis opportunity time, and again, to kind of highlight this for me, where we're at and what this means for us. And I apologize to anybody who does speak Chinese. I don't. I am Chinese, Chinese, Hawaiian, Portuguese, from Maui, as a matter of fact. My father is from Keanai, and I'm related to a whole bunch of people in Keanai and Hana. But this particular thing is not technically denotatively correct, but this word Weiji in Chinese has been translated from way back in the day with, I think it was President Kennedy who first used this as a term to define this idea of crisis. And the reason it became such a trope, or so cool, almost like a meme back in the day before they had memes, was that one of these 2 characters is something that means danger, and the other one means opportunity. This is what President Kennedy said, and it's not technically true, and I think in the Chinese language, but who's gonna argue with President Kennedy? But this idea is that when you put those 2 things together, this dangerous time, or kind of this precarious moment is what they say, and you put that right next to this pivot point, this this time when things are converging, or this crucial moment when things are about to change, then this is what Weiji is supposed to communicate. So it's a little bit kind of scary. There's a sense of, hey, you got to be alert, you got to be maka'ala, you got to be wary of what's going on. But then there's a chance here for you in this opportunity. So danger and crisis is kind of the 2 words that we're looking at here And when we start talking about danger, sorry, an opportunity, that's what we want to look at. So again, the three things I want to talk about, kind of where we're at in the world and why this is an opportunity for you, and why I'm hoping that some of you who are on this call or watch this later are not even going to show up to go talk to employers, because you're going to see that there's other options. And again, it's all just about options, you know. But the first thing that we got to look at here is where we're at today, 2021. I didn't even know, I wasn't paying attention in school. I wasn't a very good student. I didn't even know there was a second industrial revolution. You know, I'm a third or fourth. I heard of the first one, right? You know, if you think about human history, hunter-gatherers kind of way back in the day moved into agriculture, and then we started getting into industrial things where people are all working in cities now. We're working in factories, we're working in jobs. We're back before this, we're working in the home, we're working in our fields, we're out before that hunting and gathering. So now we're in this, if you look at it, it's like, I don't know, 60 years, 80 years, 100 years between these kind of things. And if you look at 2020, we're in the midst of this change. And again, the change, the edges in our timeline here are where opportunities exist, and the options are there for you. So we're fourth industrial revolution, people talking about that a lot who get into this. But when we start talking about where we're at today, this is pre-COVID-19, right? When we start looking at the fourth industrial revolution, we're talking about automation, we're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, robots. We're like in the Jetsons right now. Some of you guys may be too young to know this, but the Jetsons was a cartoon, and we only watch cartoons on Saturdays. You know, there's no 24-hour cartoon network. But the Jetsons there's George Jetson and his boy Elroy, and they spoke to each other on video phones, tripped out. When I first saw that, and I never thought that would happen when I was a child, and now we're on this, and I'm talking about the Jetsons, and it's surreal. But they also have flying cars, which is happening. There's this place in Florida where they're testing out sort of like a flying car Uber setup, you know. We're not that far away. Self-driving cars, big giant trucks, right? Who are the semis are being driven autonomously from machines, from robots. You know, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they're going to be up in space. You know, there's just crazy things going on. But we start talking about automation. These are some things that came out of Bloomberg back in 2018. Again, pre-COVID-19. Don't think that what we're dealing with is because of the pandemic. The pandemic has accelerated this, and it's turned from kind of a transformation into a immediate, urgent revolution. But if you look at skills, remember I mentioned skills are the currency. These low-skilled jobs are the ones that are going to be at the risk of automation. And I've talked to a lot of people about this here in Hawaii. I've been doing a lot of research on this. And sometimes it's kind of those things that get the headlines and people get afraid, I'm going to lose my job. You know, I don't think it's going to be terrible for people, but if you look at all the things at the bottom right-hand corner, you know, customer service reps, accountants, the cashiers, the low skill jobs, the things that you're going to be able to get with very little training. Those are going to be the things that, if they're repetitive, you're going to be able to get a machine to do it for you. Up at the top, when you're looking at maybe the more of the knowledge industry, you're on the left-hand side of this, with a lower level of risk, are the things where there's more skill, there's more sometimes learning, there's more. And when I say learning, I mean like people have to learn to get to this position. The other thing when we start talking about this is that the education up in the right-hand corner here is changing. We're in this edgy point in our history, and where things are changing. The other day I heard a little bit of Levi Strauss. Levi just came out with their earnings report or whatever, their annual report. And I don't know if you know this, but the CEO of that was talking about how everybody's waistlines have changed in 2020. So either deliberately or accidentally. I wasn't planning on saying this, but that's what he said. And it's kind of forcing them into is a change of jean style. So I never did this, but you know, like back in the day, there was maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know, there was the low-rise jeans, right? Those were kind of cool. And then I guess before that, there were other jeans that, who was it? I think Dr. Dre was making rap tunes since, you know, Sassoons or something. Sorry, Linda was wanting me to rap, but I'm not going to do that rap, by the way. But there's the low-rise jeans, and then it went to, what was it? the other type of gene that everybody started to, oh, the skinny jeans. And then now what they're saying is they're kind of moving into this loose and baggy. And he said it loose and baggy tons of times. But the idea here is that every 15 years, this clothing, the jeans things go in and out of, I mean, the style changes. And so what's happening for us is that the requirements for work are changing. Education is changing. It used to be you go to high school, you go to college, you get your 40 degree, you get a job. But that kind of stopped around the 90s, where you're kind of getting more than what your parents did, right? Now what we're seeing is that learning is still important, but the way that you do it is very, very different. So these jobs that are at risk of automation, I mean, we're talking about jobs like this, right? This is the kind of job back in the day before we had electricity. We had people cutting ice to fill ice boxes before we had refrigerators, right? Then that job, boom, as soon as we get electricity, we're done. I love this picture. I found this a little while ago. Like, somebody had to set up the bowling pins before we had electricity, right? But things are changing. So the education is still important, but how we get education and then how we label it. So is it a bachelor's degree? Is it a master's, PhD? Those things are less important right now than the skills. So back in the day, if you had a degree, that was the currency, right? But now skills are the currency. Looking at low skill jobs again, and now we're back here where we're at in 2021, looking over what's happened in the last year or so. Low skill jobs hit hardest by COVID-19. This is gonna be no surprise. 42% of pandemic-induced layoffs, this is just people speculating, right? But these University of Chicago people, it's not this anybody, are gonna result in permanent job loss. I talked to somebody here in the hotel industry just 2 days ago who was referring to 9/11, and he said that 20% of the job hours there have never returned since 2011. And he goes, what do you think is gonna happen after a year of a global shutdown? And I just can't even figure this out. And one of the things that I have learned is this quote from William Gibson, which is, the funny thing is I tried this, right? The future is not Googleable. Googleable. I tried. I did look this up, try to check what's the future jobs look like, what the skills look like, but we can't know. I mean, look at this list of jobs that were maybe jobs that didn't exist. We're saying like 10 years ago, right? Jobs that maybe 10 to 15 years ago, I should say, because app developers, you're not going to have an app developer and then you have an app store. You're not going to have an app store until you have the Apple, iPhone. I think it was 2007, 2008, social media manager. I can imagine showing this list to my grandfather and him saying, these are jobs? What's an Uber? What's a podcast? What does that even mean? So we could not anticipate or predict that these jobs are going to happen. And I know if I show this picture to my grandfather and explain what this guy does for a living and how much money he makes, he'd be like tripping. Like, Joe Rogan does what? And he makes how much at Spotify, right? Like, and that's a job. We have this thing like YouTube content creators or social media influencers, and they're making money off of this. There's just different ways to generate cash flow. And so I'm full disclosure, what I consider a post-workist. Like somebody, like, work is over. work is dying kind of thing. But we still need to generate some cash. We still have bills to pay. We still have some things going on. So how do we do that, right? And so we can't Google the future. And everybody from Abraham Lincoln to, my mom has said this right here, that the best way to predict the future then is to create it. And so that's what we want to talk about now. I want to talk about these opportunities. And so that's kind of my intro. I'm going to get into these remote work opportunities that we have. When I say opportunities, right, the idea of wagee, sorry. I tried to explain wagee to my kids and they heard me wrong, or I said it wrong. And of course, when you're 10 years old and you hear the word wagee, all you hear is wedgie. So for a 12-year-old, that is for sure a crisis. And so that's how he remembers it, and it helps me to remember it too. But it's a negative. It's kind of a scary thing. So you got to be on your guard and be wary. But what's happening now is that there's this favorable opportunity, right? That there's scary things out there still, and there's uncertainty. But there's this juncture, this inflection point that's happening that if you're aware of it, you can take advantage of that opportunity and look at that as an option. It's a good chance for advancement. And so then real quick, let me just talk about what remote work means, because some people get really twitchy on this, especially old school, no offense at all when I say that, because I'm kind of OG in my music and my rap, my song list. But when we look at the kind of people who've been involved in, say, labor, for a long time. When you say remote work, a lot of flags, negative flags start waving. Like, what about any benefits? What about that? And so let me just define this real quick. Remote work for me is you're not working in an office, but they're generally tied into a computer or digital. You're connected digitally. So remote work is working digitally someplace other than the main company office. That's pretty much it. Because you could be working construction. I have a lot of friends that do that are not working in the main office, and they're not working remotely. They're just working outside. So when we're talking about working remotely, we're talking about being connected to the company or you're in an office or your own business and being connected digitally. So this remote work is digital work, and you can do it wherever you want to. So just so happens, as long as you have an internet connection, you have a computer, and you have the skills to be able to leverage those first two things. So again, I'm up in Molokai. We're off the grid right now. I'm as remote as I can be doing work here. I've had several Zoom meetings already. I have another couple of calls this afternoon, but I'm working remotely. And so some remote work jobs are what they call gig work now, which you're getting. Basically the difference for me is that you get a 1099 versus a W-2. But remote work will span the spectrum from 1099s to W-2s, and it's kind of a tax thing. And the idea there is that it just depends. And so if you're getting a W-2, you're getting benefits. If you're not getting a W-2 and a 1099, you're not. So remote work includes all of those kind of subtypes of jobs. You could be working for a company here in Hawaii remotely, like I'm doing. I've been working for the state of Hawaii remotely out of my office in my house, which basically my office was my son's old bedroom, right? So that is me working remotely in Hawaii for a local government agency. But you could be working for somebody in a different state or somebody in a different island or somebody in a different country. And that is the key part of this opportunity. So you may have, like I said, 55,000 job opportunities, and they're all going to be someplace else where you don't have to walk through the front door of someplace. So again, when we're talking about opportunities, this is a favorable juncture. Let me share some of these things with you about remote work and give you some opportunities. But before I do, I've been talking kind of a lot, and I love the chat comments thing. So if you have any chats or questions, comments, anything that you want to me to repeat, slow down, say again, or expand on, pop that into the chat thing. Let's take advantage of that, because other than that, you could just, the people who watch this on a recording are not going to have that opportunity. So I don't know all this stuff, but I can certainly find out for you. So if you have a great answer and I have a quick question and I have an answer, great. But if not, we'll help you find this. So that's all I want to do right now is connect you to resources and increase your understanding and awareness of the options and opportunities. Sound good? So any questions, comments, drop them in that comment chat section, and good to go. Other than that, I think I only have half an hour left and I've been talking a lot. So let's get into this stuff. The first thing I want to look at is I'm going to start from the broadest resource that we have. And we have resources here, and by we, I mean the state of Hawaii. So again, this is like Christmas. I'm like one of Santa's elves, and I want to give stuff to you and connect you to these opportunities. And the first one has to do with FlexJobs, which I think was called out in the description of this. FlexJobs is a website, and I'm going to put all these sites up I'm just going to put them in the chat right now. Did I put FlexJobs there? No, did I? Yes, I did. What? I thought I did. I don't see FlexJobs for some reason. Okay, whatever. I'm going to find that phrase. It's not hard to do. If you can't find FlexJobs on Google, then this is not the career for you. I'm going to say right now, you got to have some kind of computer skills. You got to have some digital skills to get on this. But we'll address that as we go. But FlexJobs, this is their landing page, their main page here. And they're going to describe themselves as this website to help you find remote work. That's it. Flexible job opportunities. And they've been around for a long time. But oh boy, since 2020, since the lockdown, man, have they become something of like a household name with people who are looking at remote work. So if you've ever heard of other job aggregate sites like what, monster.com, is that one of them? What else is there besides Monster? Indeed.com. If you have any other ones that you use, drop them in the chat there as well. But Indeed.com, Monster.com, they're all places where people put their jobs, right? HR departments put their jobs here. It's what they're looking for. Or Glassdoor, that's a good one. Yeah, that's right. I like that one. There's all these places where they aggregate jobs for you. And those are good, and they're still good, and they're still relevant for you. And some of them will identify remote work jobs. What FlexJobs does as a website, again, think Glassdoor, think Monster.com, think Indeed.com, think FlexJobs.com. What FlexJobs does is they only do remote work jobs. So what you would do, you go inside here and you check this thing out. Oh, I know, I did have the link here, I think. But you go to FlexJobs, and there it is right there. So you go to FlexJobs, darn it, go back. Too fast. You go to, not that one, go back, darn it. You go to flexjobs.com, and it's super, super easy. You can search through all of their listings. And I think they have, like I mentioned, about 55,000 listings the last time I checked on this, which was granted a couple months ago. There could be more, or there could be less, I guess. But they're all been, quote, vetted by FlexJobs' team. That means that they've checked out the companies, that they've checked out the jobs. And these are jobs that run the gamut in terms of cash flow or pay, right? Because again, I'm not necessarily about work, but I'm about trying to figure out how we can all get paid. So you can get jobs here that are going to be very, very low paying jobs, maybe even entry-level jobs on telework, remote work, all the way up to six-figure jobs that people are recruiting for and hiring for. So there's not this sense that, oh, this is a $15 an hour call center job. That's not bad, but if you have the skills, then this is a place that I would start to look for jobs. I sent this over to my daughter. I wanted her and her husband, who was out of work, he was a physical trainer, to look through this. I mean, because they're computer literate, they have the skills, they have computers, they have broadband, they're living in Texas. And all I gotta do is find them. I sent this also to my son, he's the entrepreneurial son. And he was looking for kind of a side hustle for his own self-employment, for his own job. And he ended up, I just said, can you just check this out for me? Here's my thing, go look at the jobs. Because you have to have a membership to get in. This is how FlexJobs makes money. You have to have a membership to actually get the details of the job. So I gave him my login information. I don't know if that's a good thing to do, or it doesn't matter. There wasn't anything on it. But he found like 3 or 4 jobs that were real jobs that he ended up sending a resume into and having interviews. And he ended up finding a job actually in Hawaii, but it was all started because of this FlexJobs thing. And the job was something like $3,000 a month working part-time. So I'm like, whoa, hook me up, hook your dad up with some of this. And it's a social media job. That's what he does. He does that kind of marketing, online marketing things. But it started from him looking on FlexJobs and seeing what's available out in the rest of the country, because he didn't know it either, and the rest of the world, I should say. So the way to look through this, or to think about this, is FlexJobs is like a starting point. If you already have the skills, you want to do this remote work, you're kind of you're cool with the idea of not going into an office. Some of the remote work jobs are going to be things that are like 9 to 5 jobs. That's true. Others of them are going to be, here's the task, get them done. And so your schedule is much more flexible. And I think what we saw during this work from home lockdown was people kind of first get kind of tripping out on the idea of being, having to work from home, and then adjusting, and then recognizing that this is something that they want to do. So a lot of people either change their jobs, or change the job in the company to stay in that company, but to work remotely, or quit their jobs to get a different job. I had one friend of mine who was eligible to retire already, but was planning on working another 5 years, and said that the pandemic had forced her, or not forced her, but helped her to see what she wanted to do. And so she changed things. And so if you're interested in working from home, working remotely, working wherever you have an internet connection, a computer, then I would start here to check this out and see what's available. I mean, you could do it without a code, without a membership. I believe the memberships are $29 or $20 a month or something, which isn't that bad. I mean, if you're going to find a job that's going to make you $3,000 a month, and you're on it for 2 months or 3 months, you're good to go. They also have these kind of services to help you with your resume. A lot of people do that. Help you with your resume, help you with interviewing. But I wouldn't go pay for this right now, because what we have done is bought a whole bunch of licenses as a trial. I mean, DBED, Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, they did, and have been sharing and distributing it with us. And so Linda is on this call. Maui has access to these licenses. And so I don't know exactly how the whole thing works, but I know that we kind of dump them out and go, here, Linda, here's a whole bunch of them. And you can go through American Job Centers, and they help you get a login and get your membership and get the license key. So you don't have to pay to find the details, and then obviously to apply, because you can't apply for the jobs unless you're a member of this. And maybe the jobs are in other places too, but all this does is aggregate and put them in the same place. So again, if you already have the skills, you know you want to do remote work stuff, this is the place I would start. You go from 0 to 6 figures really pretty quickly if you have the skills already. Skills are the new currency. Comments, questions, drop them into that chat for me on this. I do have my website set up, but I never trust if I go out of this if I'm going to be able to get back. So I'm not going to go out. You can scroll through it on your own. So again, if you have any comments on that or questions about FlexJobs, hit me up in the chat. Again, the process for this, the American Job Centers in every county have licenses. They're not a whole bunch. They're not a ton of them, but DBED went and bought this and check this out and see if this would be beneficial for us here in Hawaii. Let me go back. I'm not going to physically go back to the slide that said, what is remote work? Because my objective here is not to provide remote work for everybody in the whole world. My objective is to get remote work opportunities for residents here in Hawaii. Let me be clear on this. That's a big deal. There's a lot of people who are moving to Hawaii, working remotely in other places. And that's cool. They're not taking anybody's jobs because they already have a job. They're just coming here. They're changing some of what our real estate looks like. And that's a whole different story, right? But this is not for people who are not residents here. So we're not trying to get people to come to Hawaii and take work away from residents. So the way that you would access this, go to the American Job Center and good to go on this. The next thing I want to talk about, thank you very much, Nicole. Yeah, Maui, AmericanJobCenter.com, the best. Can I say, I'm going to say this, I don't care if this is recording publicly. Well, I think it's the best website for American Job Centers in the state, and it has been for a while. So good for you guys out in Maui. The next kind of series of resources I want to share with you have to do, and this by the way is a brand new website. Like it's not even out technically. And I put this, I believe, is the first link in the chat that I shared. It's invest.hawaii.gov/remote. There's a big press release supposedly coming out in a week or two on this. But I got permission, so I'm not going rogue here from DBED to share this with you. So what DBED has done is to try and put together, again, there's a whole bunch of different things going on, FlexJobs, instant teams, next rep is a new one. We'll talk about those too. That we had in the beginning kind of that question, what are these things? But this website is going to be the place where we can go and find all of these links to those things. And so it's invest.hawaii.gov/remote. And if I can go to the next thing, sorry. Question?
Sorry, that's no.
Oh, no problem. So what happens here, and I should have, again, I don't trust my thing to scroll down, but you go to this website here, and again, if you can't navigate the web, no judgment here, because I'm spending 90% of my time working with people right now who cannot navigate the web. But if you cannot, this is not the time for you to be looking at remote work. There's a step before that we'll address in just a second. But if you can already, go to this website. You'll find a place like you want more information. If you want more information, then click here, learn about working remotely as an employee or as an employer. You can do that too. So what'll happen is that you go look for more information. What they take you to is this next page, and the information that you sign up for, right? You put your name, first name, last name. I think there's an email. They do ask for an email and what county you're on. And the reason we're doing that is because, again, we want to make sure that this is Hawaii residents taking advantage of this or being a part of this. And so that information goes to the local county American Job Centers around our state. But there's two opportunities here. Instant Teams is one of them. The Instant Teams is probably the one that we've been working with the longest, and that's like almost a whole 10 months now. So it's a local company, interestingly, where the president is not from here, but lives here in Hawaii now. Military, travel a lot, but their company is, their staff is working remote. But this project was the first project funded by the state to try and get jobs, remote work jobs and training in one place for Hawaii residents. So we're trying to provide kind of this access to it. And the jobs here are going to be, sometimes they're call center jobs, some of them are sales jobs, And so the pay is commensurate or is related to whatever that level is of what the job is. But the concept here is that Instant Teams becomes a team for other companies. So Walmart is one of their clients. And so Walmart needs a team to do something. So Instant Team has a group of people that they hire. So if you went to instantteams.com/Hawaii, there's an application process on there. And if you are selected, you go through their training, which is about a month. And then after that training, what's going to happen is that you become technically an employee of Instant Teams. And what Instant Teams does is, no matter where you live, or well, in this case, it's going to be Hawaii, but their whole team works all around the country. And then they put teams together for different companies, like I said, like Walmart. So it's a really interesting way to do it. It's very self-contained. You get all the training there. I think it's not a DIY, so it's kind of done for you already. And I like it. FlexJobs is more of a DIY. You find your own job, you've done some of your own training, you've upskilled yourself, or you've gone to the American Job Centers and you've taken classes there or been upskilled there and taking advantage of all the resources that you have, but you've done it on your own. Instant Teams will do it for you, and it's all packaged together, and you work for Instant Teams. And that's good to go. Next Rep, I don't even know if this is, I think this is live. I mean, it's going to be live in a week or so, but Next Rep is fantastic. They're one of the biggest, I'm going to say call center kind of companies. So if you've been on TV late night and you've seen those ads for these whatever products are, buy now, don't wait, call now, if you call in the next 20 minutes, you get this and this and that. Well, Next Rep is one of those companies that handles those calls, and they're doing it all remotely. It is a call center job. So, they usually go at $12 an hour, but the CEO loves Hawaii and is trying to set this up for Hawaii. So I think it's starting in Hawaii for like $14 an hour, which is not a lot. But the interesting thing about this is you're at your own home, you're working your own hours. It's almost like an Uber for a call center. So you can log in when you want to, you can work when you want to, you can not work when you want to. The weather's bad, you stay home, you work. So it's very, very intriguing. And in the beginning, like a year ago, I wasn't too keen on the call center kind of jobs that are going to start you at $12 an hour, $14 an hour. But Next Rep has made me change my thinking, mostly because they hire internally, number one. But number two, if you can recognize that this is an option for you and you start getting some cash flow and some income from Next Rep, you work for them, and they have huge, like Priceline is one of their customers. I'm gonna say Walmart again because Walmart is gigantic anyway. So they have multiple people serving them, but they have giant customer base. Delta, I think, is one of them too. But when you start working for them, you recognize quickly that there are options all around you. So I have not actually clicked on this link. So like I said, I got the permission yesterday from DBED to share this with you today. So this website, it's live, but it's just not, it hasn't been publicized yet. So the press release hasn't gone out yet, and it's about to. I would get on it as quickly as possible. Next Rep said that they're going to create a website just for Hawaii people, which is what they did, nextrep.info/Hawaii. And they're going to give preference to people from Hawaii. Like, they're going to create some kind of algorithm, and they have this whole new big giant project coming up, and they got to go, hey, listen, I can hire 200 people right now. Over the last, and I'm probably going to misquote him. So, sorry, if you're Next Rep guys are going to hear this. But since 2020, maybe the middle of it, I think they've hired like 30,000 people. So huge amount of people. So a lot of churn, right? Because it's an entry-level job, but you get your feet wet. And so I'm a big fan of that. That's happening. Those are the three things that have been set up by the state as resources. So Instant Teams is fully funded. That means that all of the training, normally Instant Teams, it's like if you're interested in this, you do this on your own, you sign up, you pay for the training on your own, and then they hire you. The training is $4,000. So, it's $4,000 of training. I don't know what that training is, but it's a lot of money. But after that, you go through that training, they're going to hire you in their team, and then team you out around the country. Next Rep is just this. Something happened in 2020 where the president, he's from San Francisco, but lived in Hawaii for a while during the pandemic and loves it. And so what can I do? I just want to set something up. FlexJobs, those licenses I think do expire at the end of 2021 for FlexJobs. So if you want one of those, again, I would hit up the American Job Center for this. They have them. They have to help us kind of track it because it is a pilot program for us. I'm trying to say, like, did anybody, was this beneficial for some people? You know, did anybody get anything out of this? So that's happening. Those are things that are already paid for. Again, that $3,000 payment, I mean, for Instant Teams already done. Now that's a small group of people. So I think there's less than 100 people that Instant Teams is looking to hire. Next, we're looking at 300, 400 people, at least for this one project that I know of. FlexJobs, you know, 55,000 jobs. So it kind of depends on where you're at. Some things get more competitive. Again, comment questions, drop them in the chat. Let me get into this next part of this. We're again talk about opportunities. Let's look at remote learning opportunities. So if you, I'm going to suggest, right, that again, I'm a post-workist. I'm also going to say that I think that the way that we look at higher education is going to be drastically different over the next, it already is. Google in 2020 announced that they would accept some 3 to 6 month certification in lieu of, I think it was 6 month certification, in lieu of a 4-year degree for certain jobs that they were hiring for. So if you went through this certification training class, you got certified, they would take that instead of, you know, the requirement to have you go through a 4-year degree. So once Google does that, and I'm sure there's other companies I just don't know right now, it just changes how people learn things and what's expected. So to speak, I talked to a friend of mine on Kauai about FlexJobs, and she goes, "Oh, I better go back to college then, so I can go, because I have to finish my degree." I'm like, 2 years left. I'm like, "Ooh, you know, if you love going to school, that's great. If you're not a school person, this is your time." This is, you know, like, I got kicked out of the University of Hawaii, and I should let that go. But you know, I was surfing a lot at the time, and they didn't surfing a lot and not going to class didn't work for them. I didn't want to go to school anyway. But I'm like, yeah, now what? You know, like especially if I do training or something for them, I always charge them a little bit extra to want me to come in. But I have to let that kind of stuff. It's my own psych issue. Remember what I just said for the last 30 seconds. This remote learning is different though. Education is going to be different. And so when we start looking at these jobs, maybe there's a job that you find on FlexJobs that says you need this skill and this skill, and they list them out just like every other job. You need to know Excel, for example, Microsoft Excel or Slack. Salesforce is something that's really, really big. And there's a couple of programs here in Hawaii that have been funded by grants to take people through Salesforce. And one of the things that one program told me was how surprised they were at how weak some of the people's skills were coming in. Like they said, we use Slack all the time. Everybody knows Slack? Everybody know what Slack is? Yes, no? Slack is a messenger kind of app, collaboration app. A lot of the tech companies will use these kind of things. But they said that, you know, we were kind of surprised that we had to teach people how to use Slack, and they've never, you know, used it before, and we're uncomfortable with that, or email even. And you know, in my mind, if you want to get a Salesforce job, you know what Salesforce is. It's pretty technical. You want to go through that training. I was kind of surprised too. But if you want, like, Salesforce is legit tech stuff, and you can change your career path from right now, in 0 to 12 months. From here, whatever today's date in July 2021, 6 to 12 months, you can be in a completely different career. And so I told this one girl this in Kauai, a friend of mine, and she's like, "What? I don't have to go to college. I'm gonna just check out these jobs, see what the skills are, and then let's go learn those skills." And so I want to talk about these. These are the skills that we have, that we've been partnering with. I love all of these things. And let me be. I think I wanted to talk about LinkedIn Learning first, and I don't think I have any slides on this. But if you've ever heard of LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning is related. LinkedIn is like a social media for business, so like a Facebook for your resume. You know, so instead of putting pictures up of your dogs, even though I still put pictures of my dogs, I should. And LinkedIn, you know, that's not where you would do it. You put a picture of, you know, here's this meeting that I had, or I was at this conference, or this is this thing I learned about goal setting and time management. And you wouldn't normally do that on Facebook. But LinkedIn is like a social media for business, for work. LinkedIn Learning is something that, and LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. And LinkedIn Learning was bought, Microsoft bought lynda.com. It was a learning platform for years. It was very, very popular. And they had these online classes, videos for people to learn all kinds of skills. And Microsoft bought them. They integrated them into this LinkedIn Learning. And what you have is basically 15,000 classes. You can learn everything from basic computer skills all the way up to Azure, cloud computing stuff. And I tried to get in. I took a free class from Amazon.com, and they offered it on Amazon Web Services, AWS, their cloud computing platform. And I was 15 minutes in, and I was 10 minutes in, and I was out. It's just too technical. But if you're good with that, you're good. And I'm not even suggesting that remote work is all technical coding, cloud computing. I'm not at all. Remote work, though, you do have to have. I'm saying that remote work is not all tech jobs, but every job basically is like a tech job now. So you have to have tech skills. You have to be able to get on the computer, use a computer, and leverage them, and be able to use email and download files and attachments and all those kind of things. And the good news about these skills is that you can train those skills. So if you don't have them right now, you can learn it. And it's there. That's the opportunity. If you want to change your path that you're on, this is the edge time to do it. And these are the learning resources. So LinkedIn Learning and Coursera, they're both online learning platforms. Coursera tends to be a little bit more college centric. And by that, I mean, they actually get college professors to teach the classes. So they get some of the best college professors around the world and then videotape them, create an online video course. And it feels a lot like school, but you're online. But they also have certifications and other pre-recorded things, and they'll leave you with Google, for example, uses Coursera for their internal training. So if you want to get certified on Azure, or probably LinkedIn, but if you're going to get certified on AWS or something, then Coursera would be the thing. If you want to get certified in anything else, you want to learn project management, they're all good to go. But Coursera tends to be a little bit more school centric. It feels a lot more like school. LinkedIn Learning is a little bit more, here's a video made, the trainer, I don't even know who that is. It's the topic that I'm interested in. It's the skills that I'm interested in. It's the content that I want to learn. So I had a new project management app that I'm on a Mac. So it's called OmniPlan. And I couldn't find any free resources. Normally I go to YouTube, you find all the free stuff so I don't have to buy any training stuff. And I couldn't find any, but what the heck? LinkedIn Learning had a whole 3-hour class on how to use OmniPlan as a project management software. So it's there. I mean, you have resources there. And the reason I'm bringing up LinkedIn, and I'm starting with them first, is because we have done another one of those things where we're piloting a whole bunch of LinkedIn Learning licenses. So I think it's $20 a month, or they're all at that sweet spot of $20 to $30 a month for learning, for memberships, for licenses. And so we went and bought almost 3,000 licenses of this. The WDC, Workforce Development Council, had purchased almost 3,000 licenses, and we're divvying them up again all throughout the state and the AJCs and the counties. And so it's to me, I don't know how the process is, but it would be like a call and say, "What's up, Linda? Hey, how do I get one of these licenses?" And then you sign up or do whatever you need to do, and then you're in there, and the licenses last for a year, and they just became active. June 1st, I think, June 1st or July 1st, something like that. So this recently happened. You have them for a year, and you can sit there and take class after class after class, get little micro certification, little badges, and all of a sudden that makes a difference. Now, just because you get the certification doesn't mean you get the job, because people are still looking for experience. So there's other avenues there. But then now at least you have your foot in the door, or you have your foot in the field, and you can play the game. So LinkedIn Learning is there. Coursera, our license is still stuck someplace. Our contract is in procurement someplace. I don't know where it is. I can't fathom how that works sometimes, but we're trying to work that as well. There's not as many licenses, but there's also a lot of WIOA targeted license there. And by a lot, I mean 250 that Coursera donated to us just for people who what they call their social impact clientele. So people may be previously incarcerated, gonna have a hard time finding a job or getting educated, whatever it may be. Coursera has given us some of those free licenses. And then we have other licenses that we bought. So it's not a lot, and it's very, very expensive. Coursera, given the state of Hawaii, about 5,000 licenses. Toward the end of 2020, we used about 1,000. And now I just wish, oh my goodness, I wish we would have connected and hooked up with that, because I know how much that cost. What? So many opportunities we just lost right there. So those are for people who you already know, you have a computer, you have internet access, you have broadband access, and you have the skills to get online and learn it. And by the way, online learning is not easy. I'm a really good student in general. So again, witnessed my catastrophe there back in the day. But there's classes on how to learn online. So anything you need to learn, you can learn online. My son learned how to fix our truck's brakes on YouTube. And every time I go down this dirt road right outside our place, I always thank YouTube and my son's ability to learn to make that happen. But if you have those skills, you're good to go. Again, the place to figure this out is at the American Job Center there, and the link is in the chat for how that works. But North Star is for people who may not have those skills yet. And I want to talk a bit more about that because this is like a real big passion project of mine. Hawaii used to have one of the highest one of the highest literacy rates of any nation in the world back in the 1800s. So when the United States of America in 1870 was at a literacy rate of 78%, I believe. Best guess, right? Not my guess, but researchers. 1870, about 78%. The worldwide literacy rate was about 19%. Hawaii was at 91% plus. So huge literacy. What we're trying to get to with our workforce resilience initiative out of the WDC is to have the most digitally literate place in the world. So I'm pushing hard for this. And if you're not digitally literate, this is the place to be. So this URL is in the second one from the top there, digitalliteracy.assessment.org. But this is for people who may not know the basics of computers, or who may know the basics but don't know Word, don't know Excel, don't know PowerPoint. You can see some of the things that they'll teach you in this. If you went through this, is about 40 hours of content. You come out of this with some skills. Okay, this is solid, legit skills, and you have to take tests and assessments, and you get little badges, and you can demonstrate that you have those skills. Every single library in our state is going to be running North Star. We paid for that through our relationship with the state libraries. Have paid for that. We partnered with them. It's a company from Minnesota, Literacy Minnesota, that runs North Star. But every library is going to have access to this. You can get proctored certification, which means that somebody's going to be around there is going to actually make sure that when you get your badge, people don't think, oh, somebody else took your test, like your grandchild took it for you. So basic computer skills, I'm circling that because I want you to take this test. So there's a real simple assessment. It takes about 10 minutes. And if you click on the link after we're done here, I'll leave it on here. The second link over here, digitalliteracy.assessment.org/launch from my blah, blah, blah. That'll take you to this site that will allow you to take this class, take the assessment on whether you have basic computer skills. If the first three, basic computer skills, internet basics, and using email, if you have that, to me, you have enough to go and learn online. You can learn the rest of this Microsoft Word things or Excel, or you can go into LinkedIn. My preferred path would be you test out of these things, or you take the classes and then you test out of them. You get into LinkedIn or you get into Coursera, depending upon what your job pathway might be. If you were in customer service before in a hotel, we can transition that to customer service online. And there's pathways to learn how to do that in these online courses. But that's the kind of the steps I would do, right? North Star first, make sure you have the skills. And if not, it's free to set up a learner account. So there's no limit to the amount of learners that we can put inside here. Right now, like I said, all of the libraries are going to be become sites, our North Star sites. We've also are working to set up every single American Job Center in the state as a North Star site, which means that they can set up learner accounts for you. And all it is the first name, last name, email, and then you're a learner account. It's good to go. So that you learn on your own. You put your headphones in, you click on the thing, press next, and you're good. And you can just sit there and you can learn, and you take the test and you're solid. The libraries are going to offer support. We're also offering people in-person classes, because if you've never used a computer before, it's hard to learn them online. It's a chicken or the egg. No, it's not a chicken or the egg. You cannot learn online if you don't know how to use a computer. So at least the basics. And so we have a really short class that we're doing. It's statewide, and I'm going to end with this. It's this digital. This is the last link, digitalreadyhawaii.org. We have classes all throughout the state. It's going to be all of the community colleges are offering providing instructors and classes at their campuses through September. Also, there's about 15 libraries, or 10, 15 libraries that are going to be offering them. They're select libraries around the state. Now, good news, bad news is that this is statewide. It's going to go through September. bad news is that Maui Community College is going to finish up their list of classes in August. So other colleges are going to go through September. The libraries are going to be happening all the way through September, but not Maui Community College. They have all kinds of things going on, super busy, and I'm not sure what their capacity is. So the good news is that it's happening, bad news is that it's not going to happen after August in Maui. But this is the website here that has basically the classes for the schedule. So there's classes happening all the time. The library schedule is not up here, but the library is starting. The libraries are going to be offering the classes next week, the beginning of next week. So instructors from the community colleges are going to go to the library, show up over there, teach the classes, and then from there, the idea is that you would set up an online account with North Star, and that you would go and continue to learn on your own. So that's it for me in terms of this, remote learning resources. I do want to leave you with this kind of stuff. I mentioned earlier, you cannot Google the future. We don't know. Again, who would have predicted Joe Rogan podcast, Uber? We just couldn't. Nobody's going to know this kind of stuff. And this is like one of those old CrossFit things where CrossFit workout people, they don't know what their workout's going to be when they go to the gym. And so they have to be ready for anything. And that's what we're describing as resiliency, being ready for anything. And the way that you are ready for anything is if you can learn what you need to learn when you need to learn it. So Eric Hoffer was an American philosopher, and he's the one that said, in times of drastic change, it's the learners who inherit the future. The learned usually find themselves equipped to live in a world that no longer exists. So I'm going to be done here. I'm going to stop and say that, actually, I not stopped yet. This is the ALI plant. I love this plant. And this is the Olelo no Eal that says, ALI ipu makani mo eal. I am the wind-resistant ALI plant, right? Aohe makani nana e kulai. There's no wind that's going to blow me down. And it is, it's kind of a strong statement that for me defines resiliency. So we have another outbreak of COVID. I heard that Lanai, maybe the DOE just called yesterday. They said they may be going back to remote learning. We don't know, with triple-digit things. We just don't know what tomorrow's going to happen, what tomorrow's going to bring. So in the unknown and unknowable, how do you prepare? Well, you need to learn, and you be able to learn. If you can learn how to learn, you can be resilient, and there's no wind that can knock you down. And so when we start talking about this idea of the opportunities, the crises, this Weiji, however that works, all I wanted to leave you with was this idea that there's options for you and that there's opportunities. So those are the links on the thing that I put down. Let me just share one more link with you. This is my email. I don't mind talking about this. I'm out of time right now. 2:34. I'm late even. Sorry.
You're okay.
Sorry, Nicole.
You can put it in your email. Did you put it in your email?
I just dropped it in there, yeah. So
okay,
I'm gonna be done, and I don't know how much time you have for questions, but I have no place to go for a little bit because it's kind of still stormy outside.
If anybody has any questions, jump in. Totally.
I just want you folks to know that the American Job Center has career counselors that can actually help you through any of these programs and offer you these programs. So if you register as a dislocated worker at the American Job Center, your career counselor we can get you any kind of training to support these ideas in this remote learning.
Love it.
And it's all there. When UH quits and they don't do the digital literacy, there'll be another class coming along. I guarantee it. You just have to keep at the American Job Center. If you can get registered and become a dislocated worker, there are support services available for you. There's career counseling available for you. And that's how you get these remote licenses. All you have to do is register there. And one of the partners at the American Job Center will text me and say, I need a license, and I'll send them the license. We've given out about 30 licenses in the last 2 months, and people are very, very much like it. So we're working, with Ka'ala very closely. He's, giving us lots and lots of skills and tools to use. And it's going to work. This is definitely going to work. We're going to move people over to jobs that they're really happy with.
That's incredible. Good job, Linda. I appreciate you being here and sharing with that. Kala, you are absolutely amazing. And what I heard from you today is opportunity is there. I think there's a little bit of fear in there when you talk about remote jobs. I remember going from, a paid job with benefits to not, and it's definitely a jump. But if you don't research it, you will never know. And with all
Yes.
of these learning opportunities and job opportunities, find out what works. And if you need to fit it in between certain hours of the evening, that's perfect for remote jobs. So
Yes. Yep. And if I can just say, and I know I've been talking for an hour, but I got even more. But it's scary to go to remote work, but it's scary to be in regular work. So what are you gonna do? There's no job security, and so I think what we're trying to get to here is the point where you take responsibility and you have your own agency to basically you make your thing. So whether it's you set up how you want to work, you start your own company. That's a whole different topic here. I think my son might have been on talking about starting an Amazon business. I don't know. He mentioned he was talking about Maui something. But it's agency, it's personal ability to affect your own life. And so there's fear in going to a new spot, remote work, but it's also fear in staying where you are because there is no certainty. And I think everybody found that out in COVID-19.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much for bringing us these opportunities. And I would love to hear you explain Joe Rogan to your grandfather. That would.
I don't even understand it myself,
Well,
it takes me
thank
like
you.
2 minutes to get through one podcast with Joe Rogan. It's 3 hours.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us and being here today. I really appreciate it. I wanted to share one more thing because we are doing this with the Maui American Job Center and the Maui County Virtual Job Fair. The job fair is coming up on August 4th. The URL that I'm looking at right now is Maui County Virtual Job Fair. I'll put it in the chat box. It's a run up to the job fair, but we have already gone through the personality traits to finding your dream job. This one is actually really cool. It's a recording. Linda Popolo did Make Your Next Move, and this is a recording of how you can research jobs that are available for you. Ka'ala did this beautiful conversation we had here today, which you gave us a lot of history that filled it out. I appreciate that. I will put the link here if you want to review it or share it with a friend. But the next one we have next Wednesday is Dare to Dream About Your Future. And if you haven't met Julie Patow, she is the director of the UHMC Career Link, and she is full of possibilities. And so I would suggest you attend that one just to hear what options you have. And so you can click, when you get to this URL, you can click to register here. Right now, I'm going to grab that URL and put it in the chat box for you. So you have that available. Let me stop sharing for a sec, and then I'll do it. So I popped that in there for you. And there are tons of other resources here in the chat box. So if you want to just copy and paste all of that, that would be terrific. But that's it for me today, and that's it for us. I hope to see you all next week. Ka'ala, thank you for gracing us with your presence. It means the world. And thank you all for coming today. We couldn't be doing this without you, so thank you so much, and we hope to see you at the job fair on August 4th. I'll stop recording now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.